countries like China and Russia have been spread throughout the news as our biggest competitors and countries that Americans should fear.
U.S. Army Chief of Staff calling Russia the most dangerous threat to the United States today.
U.S. intelligence leaders say China poses the most consequential threat to the nation's national security.
But what if I told you that neither of those countries is our biggest threat? What if it wasn't even a country, but a family, who had their hands on our most precious commodity, which is oil, which we also rely heavily on to power our entire infrastructure, military, and economy? The family in question I am talking about is a family that most of you probably don't even know exists. But if you knew how influential they are to Americans' daily lives, then you would drop everything to know them more, because understanding them is a key component to figuring out our military complex, endless military spending, and endless wars. I present to you the House of Saud. Oil, a black gold that transformed the world. You might be under the misconception that oil is evil and is only used for vehicles in the military, but the truth is that it is used for far more than just that. Its significance reaches far beyond fuel, as it permeates every aspect of our lives, from plastics to clothing materials to products in your homes like drinking cups, combs, and electronics. It's even used in food production when it comes to food packaging and processing, and it is also used to make transportation fuels such as gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuels. Diesel fuel is used to make diesel engines of heavy construction equipment, trucks, buses, boats, trains, some automobiles, and even electricity generators. In addition to these uses, oil is also used to make products such as fertilizers, synthetic fibers, pharmaceuticals, detergents, and more. After crude oil is removed from the ground, it is sent to a refinery where different parts of the crude oil are separated into usable petroleum products. The petrochemical industry uses petroleum as a raw material to make products such as plastics, polyurethane, and hundreds of intermediate and end-user goods. Basically, to put it bluntly, almost everything that we use is made from oil. So you can understand why wars are fought over it and why nations are greedy enough to slaughter millions just to attain it. Back in 1938, an American-owned oil well in Dhahran struck black gold, unearthing vast oil reserves of Saudi Arabia. Overnight, this discovery set in motion a series of events that would shape the course of history. The newfound wealth of the petroleum transformed Saudi Arabia from herdsmen and farmers into an influential global player on the world stage. As of right now, it possesses about 20% of the world's proven petroleum reserves and ranks as the largest exporter of petroleum and plays a leading role in OPEC. OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, refers to a group of 13 of the world's major oil exporting nations. It is an intergovernmental organization that coordinates and unifies the petroleum policies of its member countries. It was founded in 1960 by Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela to manage the supply of oil in an effort to set the price of oil on the world market. The other countries that now belong to it as well include Algeria, Angola, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Libya, Nigeria, and the United Arab Emirates. It is essentially a cartel that controls the world's oil prices. They get to decide how much your gas is going to be worth when you fill up your tank before work. The petroleum sector accounts for roughly 80% of Saudi Arabia's budget revenues, 45% of their GDP, and 90% of their export earnings. The kingdom's coffers are overflowed with riches, opening doors to unimaginable power and influence. This massive oil revenue empowered the Saudi government and enhanced their influence in economic and political forms. They held the key to the world's energy needs, a power that could shape nations and economies. To exploit the oil wealth, the Saudi government set up a joint enterprise with American oil corporations. The company is currently known as Saudi Aramco, which is Saudi Arabia's public petroleum and natural gas company, and is also the world's largest oil producer and the world's most profitable company. It has its roots in an exclusive concession to explore for oil in Saudi Arabia that the kingdom granted to Standard Oil of California, which is now Chevron, back in 1933. A concession agreement is a contract that gives a company the right to operate a specific business within a government's jurisdiction or on another firm's property, subject to particular terms. This concession was operated by a subsidiary called the California Arabian Standard Oil Company. and partnered with Texaco in 1936. In 1944, both Standard Oil New Jersey, which later became Exxon, and Saucony Vacuum, which later became Mobil, then later emerged with Exxon, joined the consortium, which was named the Arabian American Oil Company, or for short, Aramco. On February 14th of 1945, President Roosevelt met with Saudi King Abdulaziz on the deck of the USS Quincy as the American warship cruised the Suez Canal. The alliance was first sealed between the two leaders, and they knew that oil, of which Saudi Arabia was well endowed, was a key component of Americans' economy. Standard Oil of California had signed a far-sighted deal a decade earlier, giving it exclusive production rights in the kingdom. The meeting between Roosevelt and Abdulaziz was unprecedented and set the foundation for a long-standing relationship between the two countries. The US has had a military presence in Saudi Arabia since the 1940s, when they sent their first ambassador there in 1943, and the two countries have had a strategic partnership since the 1950s. The US has provided many military training and equipment to the Saudi Arabia, and in return, Saudi Arabia has been a major supplier of oil to the US. Today, the House of Saud is the ruling family of Saudi Arabia and is estimated to be worth over $1.4 trillion, making them one of the most wealthiest families in the world. The ruling royal family of Saudi Arabia, known as the House of Saud, wields absolute power within the kingdom. They control all state enterprises, dictate political decisions, and shape the destiny of its nation. Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy, and the king must comply with Sharia, the Islamic law, and the Quran. While the Quran and the Sunnah, which are traditions of Muhammad, are declared to be the country's constitution, no political parties or national elections are permitted. Politics in Saudi Arabia take place within the royal family and the Al Saud. Participation in the political process outside the Al Saud is limited to a relatively small segment of the population and takes the form of the royal family consulting with the ulema, tribal sheikhs, and members of important commercial families on major decisions. In the backdrop of the Arab-Israeli War of 1973, a tumultuous conflict centered around the contentious issue of Palestinian land, the United States decided to make a questionable move in siding with Israel, which angered many nations in the Middle East, especially the countries that are a part of OPEC. However, the biggest oil-producing countries in the Arabic world did not stop drilling to teach the US a lesson. Rather than that, they devised a strategic move that would reverberate across the globe.
Just like it did in 1973, when an OPEC oil embargo led to an international shortage and rocked the global economy.
Do you think that Americans in general realizes?
No, I don't think they've woke up to it yet, except the people that are really being affected by it. I don't think that they realize how serious it is.
The oil-producing countries of the Arab world decided to use their oil as a political weapon.
On October 17th of 1973, the announcement echoed through international markets, an oil embargo imposed against the United States and other nations supporting Israel during the conflict. It was a potent weapon intended to convey their collective displeasure and teach the United States a lesson. The oil shortage caused by the 1973 oil embargo had a significant impact on the U.S. economy. The Arab oil embargo was the world's first oil crisis.
We are heading toward the most acute shortages of energy since World War II.
An oil supply disruption leading to major price increases and worldwide energy crisis. To give you a better idea of the crisis, the price of a barrel of oil went from $3 a barrel to $12 a barrel. Imagine waking up the next day to realize that gas is 4 times the price that it was before you woke up. That is exactly what happened to every American that day. But for the Saudis, it was an entirely different story. They went from $8.5 billion in oil earnings in 1973 to $35 billion in 1974. With the money that they made off of us, they started buying weapons, tanks, airplanes, and military infrastructure from guess who? The United States, of course, where they just made billions off of due to a man-made crisis. It would even cause fuel scarcity and a major spike in gasoline prices in the United States, which prompted the government to implement a number of policies aimed to address the issue, with the fuel rationing being one of its measures. The impact hit American consumers in their wallets, as retail prices for gasoline soared by 40% in 1973 alone. The embargo contributed to an upward spiral in oil prices with global implications. and posing skyrocketing costs on consumers and structural challenges to the stability of the whole national economies. The price shock of 1973 is reported to have shrunk the US economy by approximately 2.5%, increased unemployment and inflation, and spun the country into a recession. Think about what I just said for 1 second. In 1 year, this country was able to shrink our economy by 2.5%. That is insane, and if you are an American, this should concern you. Also remember that this happened in the 1970s, when we were much more powerful and feared as a nation. Imagine if something like this happened again. How much more would our economy shrink? The embargo also pointed out a significant increase in OPEC cartel's influence at the global economy and caused the United States and Western European countries to reassess their dependence upon Middle Eastern oil. Although this was short-lived, instead of the US figuring out ways to get oil outside of the kingdom, they doubled down and continued buying oil from the Saudis, and even kept selling them weapons, tanks, and aircraft. The United States essentially built their entire military infrastructure that they have today, which the Saudis paid for with billions that they just extorted from us. The Saudis didn't stop there though. They wanted to get full ownership over Aramco, which again is the world's most profitable company. First, they insisted on taking a 25% interest in it, paid for in oil, and by 1980, they owned 100% of Aramco. Despite this, they gave Chevron, Mobil Exxon, and Texaco priority in selling them oil, and they offered special discount rates to please both Washington and the companies. After this, Saudi Arabia and the oil companies continued to work together and stay close. So let's take a minute to think about what we just learned again. So the US sides with Israel in the Arab-Israeli war, which upsets the OPEC cartel to shrink the US economy by 2.5% in 1 year. And then the US decides to sell weapons to that same country that just screwed them over, and even build them an entire military infrastructure that dominates in the Middle East. And that same country even kicks the US out of ownership rights on the most profitable country in the world. But don't worry everybody, we'll give you guys a good discount. Did you know that there was an astonishing fact that emerged during the US-Saudi Arabia counterterrorism relationship hearing? Out of 19 of the hijackers involved in the infamous 9/11 attacks, a staggering 15 of them were actually Saudi nationals. Yes, you heard that right. This gripping information was shared during a session of the House of Representatives, where the subcommittee's chairman, the esteemed Honorable Ted Poe, made some truly eye-opening statements. One of the most striking revelations was that Saudi Arabia had long been suspected as a significant source of funding for Al-Qaeda, a primary source of financial support for one of the most notorious terrorist organizations in the world. Chairman Poe also brought up a controversial issue that has been shrouded in secrecy: the infamous 28 pages missing from the original 9/11 report. These pages contain classified information that the public has been denied access to. Chairman Poe, having had the opportunity to review these pages, firmly believes that the US public deserves to see them. After all, why should crucial details about such a significant event be kept hidden from the American people? So let's recap again. According to the House of Representatives, Saudi Arabia not only played a crucial role as a financial hub for Al-Qaeda, but also has a startlingly high number of its own citizens involved in the 9/11 attacks. Furthermore, the existence of these mysterious 28 missing pages raises even more questions. What do they contain? Why are they classified? Shouldn't the truth be unveiled for all to see? The American people have a right to know what truly happened on that fateful day. It's time for transparency. In the realm of international weapon purchases, there's one country that truly stands out, holding an impressive title that may surprise you. Care to take a guess? Well, hold on to your curiosity, because the answer is none other than Saudi Arabia. This nation has attained the distinction of being the world's largest purchaser of weapons, and guess who's at the forefront of supplying their insatiable demand? You got it, the United States. They become Saudi Arabia's ultimate go-to for all things military hardware. It's like a captivating dance of supply and demand. Now let's dive into some intriguing figures, shall we? Between 2016 and 2020, the United States amassed a jaw-dropping $13 billion from their weapon sales to Saudi Arabia. And that's no small sum, my friend. It's a colossal amount that puts all other contenders in the shade. Even India, the second place player, pales in comparison with a mere $1 billion in weapon purchases. Talk about a dominant force in the market. But there's more. According to the latest data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Saudi Arabia's military expenditure has reached an astonishing heights. They've invested an impressive $75 billion into bolstering their defense capabilities. It's a substantial commitment that places them among the top 5 countries in the world with the highest military budgets. They're certainly not holding back when it comes to safeguarding their interests. In the depths of Yemen's heart-wrenching conflict lies a tragedy of immense proportions, one that has taken a heavy toll on innocent civilians and plunged the nation into chaos. At the forefront of a coalition embroiled in the strife stands Saudi Arabia, steering the ship alongside the support of the United States. Their joint military invasion in Yemen has set off a prolonged war and destructive one, leaving a trail of casualties and worsening an already dire humanitarian crisis. It's a delicate subject, but one that deserves attention. The story begins in September of 2014 when Houthi forces, aligned with the former president Ali Abdullah Saleh, took control of Yemen's capital, Sana'a, and expanded their influence across the nation. This act triggered a response from the Saudi-led coalition, igniting a military offensive in March 26 of 2015 in support of Yemeni President Abdul Rabbu Mansour Hadi. The United States helped the Saudi-led coalition, assisting them with targeting intelligence and air refueling capabilities.
U.S. military is helping the Saudis plan bombing missions over Yemen, providing targeting intelligence from satellites overhead and making AWACS surveillance planes and aerial refueling aircraft available as well.
Yet amidst this devastating conflict, it is the innocent Yemeni civilians who bear the brunt of the suffering. According to the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, as of November 2018, over 6,872 civilians had lost their lives, with an additional 10,768 wounded, primarily due to airstrikes conducted by the Saudi-led coalition. It makes you wonder, if the Saudi-led coalition and the US are there to save the Yemen people and nation from invading Houthis, then why are their airstrikes the main reason Yemen civilians are dying in the war? Shouldn't the Houthi forces be causing the most casualties since they invaded Yemen's capital and is the reason that they're supposedly in Yemen in the first place? These numbers, though shocking, likely underestimate the true extent of the civilian casualties. Furthermore, the conflict has forced countless Yemenis to flee their homes while millions endure severe shortages of food and medical care. As time passes, the dynamics of the conflict have taken unexpected turns, leading to fractured alliances and internal strife. In December of 2017, clashes between Houthi forces and loyalists of former President Saleh escalated, resulting in Saleh's tragic demise. Additionally, in January of 2018, clashes erupted between Yemeni government forces and Yemenis backed by the United Arab Emirates and the city of Aden. These internal divisions have only deepened the country's instability and intensified the already dire crisis. The shocking murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi sent shockwaves across the world and raised serious concerns about the actions of the Saudi Arabian government.
As investigators try to find out what happened to Jamal Khashoggi.
Saudi Arabia confirms that the journalist Jamal Khashoggi is dead.
Jamal Khashoggi's loved ones want some form of closure.
Saudi foreign minister saying this was all a terrible mistake.
The execution of Jamal Khashoggi, a frequent critic of the Saudi regime, inside of the Saudi consulate.
Saudi Arabia for 3 weeks has been trying to fool the world here.
The killing of Jamal Khashoggi was a premeditated murder.
The involvement of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the assassination, as indicated by U.S. intelligence reports, further intensified the scrutiny on Saudi Arabia's treatment of dissent and human rights. According to U.S. intelligence assessments, the Saudi Crown Prince authorized an operation to capture or kill Jamal Khashoggi in Istanbul, Turkey. This conclusion is based on the Crown Prince's control over decision-making in Saudi Arabia, the involvement of a key advisor and members of his protective detail, and his support for violent measures against dissidents. Khashoggi, known for his critical views of the Saudi government, particularly the Crown Prince, played a significant role in shedding light on a human rights situation in the country. He had been an advisor to the senior Saudi officials and was previously seen close to the Saudi royal family. However, as dissent and crackdowns on activists and dissenters escalated, Khashoggi became increasingly vocal at his criticism. After several of his friends were arrested, his column was cancelled by the Al Hayat newspaper and he was allegedly warned to stop tweeting. Mr. Khashoggi left Saudi Arabia from the US, where he wrote opinion pieces from the Washington Post and continued to appear on Arab and Western TV channels. He wrote in 2017, "I have left my home, my family, and my job, and I am raising my voice. To do so otherwise would betray those who languish in prison. I can speak when so many cannot." Further adding to the controversy, witnesses reported sightings of members of the Saudi hit squad who were convicted by the Kingdom of Khashoggi's murder, living in luxury villas in Riyadh. This revelation raised questions about the Saudi government's commitment to justice and accountability, further deepening the skepticism surrounding the case. In June of 2017, Mohammed bin Salman assumes the prestigious position the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia, a role second only to the king himself. With this newfound authority, he sets his sights on solidifying his control, ensuring that no threats remained unchecked. It is in November of 2017 that the plot thickens. A select group of influential and Saudi Arabian figures, including prominent princes, government officials, and military personnel, find themselves caught in the web of a newly established anti-corruption committee, led by none other than the Crown Prince himself. What unfolds next is a carefully orchestrated maneuver that captivates the imagination.
When they introduced the anti-corruption committee, he came down like a hammer against some prominent business people.
These individuals are relocated to a well-known sanctuary of luxury, the illustrious Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Riyadh. However, the irony is palpable, as the opulent surroundings become a symbol of confinement, robbing the detainees of their accustomed comforts. Trapped within its walls, their movements restricted, they become pawns in a high-stakes game overseen by the Crown Prince. As time elapses, some detainees manage to secure their freedom by reaching settlements with the government, while others remain in custody for an undisclosed duration. The incident at the Ritz-Carlton becomes synonymous with the Crown Prince's mission to combat corruption, so they say. Yet, amidst the whispers that swirl in the shadows, the truth remains elusive. Rumors of alleged torture and the questionable fate of a trusted aide to one of the princes permeate the air. It is within the veil of uncertainty that the Crown Prince's motives are scrutinized, leaving us to ponder the complexity of his actions. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was even quoted saying this in his response to the purge. Exploitation by some weak souls would put their own interest above public interests in order to illicitly accrue money. A year later in 2018, the Saudi general said that 56 men remain locked up, some the subject of criminal investigations, with more than $106 billion in cash, real estate, businesses, securities, and other assets recovered in the Ritz operation. The Crown Prince arranged a private party in the Maldives in July of 2015, which was attended by nearly 150 women models. The party was held on a private island in the Maldives, which was rented out for a month at the cost of $50 million. The party was attended by a few dozen men from the Middle East, including the Crown Prince, and featured performances by celebrities like Jennifer Lopez, Pitbull, Shakira, and even Afrojack. The party was kept secret because as Crown Prince, you must uphold the Sharia law and the Quran, since you and your people are subject under them. Parties that involve alcohol, drugs, music, dancing, and other activities that are considered inappropriate or immoral are generally considered haram, which means forbidden. So you can see how this would be a really bad look for the prince to his people if they caught him doing this. In some cases, Mohammed bin Salman relied on his own staff, such as when it came to serving alcohol, which is banned in Saudi Arabia. The Vela staff was kept on the periphery because the Saudis didn't want to be seen drinking by residents of another Muslim country. Less than a week into the Bacchanal, word of MBS's presence leaked to a local publication. The news was soon picked up elsewhere. MBS quickly left after this, and the women were shortly gone after. In 2017, the Crown Prince caused quite a stir when he secured Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece, the Salvator Mundi, for a mind-boggling $450 million at an auction. This record-breaking purchase showcased his unapologetic taste for the finer things in life and his vast wealth that knows no bounds. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Cast your mind back to 2015, when the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman made an extraordinary acquisition, the awe-inspiring Chateau Louis near Paris, for an eye-watering $300 million. This architectural marvel, revered as the world's most expensive residence, boasts an array of jaw-dropping features. Picture a wine cellar adorned with guided doors and fixtures, housing an astonishing 3,000 bottles, while magnificent frescoes adorn the walls. Not to mention the grand ballrooms, the squash court, the movie theater, and not one, but two stunning swimming pools. And hold on to your seat for this one. There's even an underground nightclub, decked out with priceless artworks from the prince's personal collection. While ownership was initially shrouded in secrecy through cleverly crafted shell companies, advisors to the royal family have confirmed what many have suspected all along. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is the true owner. But wait, there's more. The Crown Prince's penchant for luxury extends to the high seas as well. Behold, the Serene, a majestic yacht acquired for a jaw-dropping sum of approximately $500 million from Russian vodka tycoon Yuri Shelfer in 2015. This floating paradise stretches an impressive 134 meters, boasting not just one, but 7 swimming pools, a helipad, a spa fit for royalty, and a cinema to indulge in the latest blockbusters. And let's not forget the Pegasus, a prized possession previously owned by Mexican billionaire Carlos Perlita, that now finds itself in the Crown Prince's fleet of lavish vessels. These indulgences may leave you wondering about the economic landscape of Saudi Arabia. Well, hold on to the curiosity, because the royal family has its very own sovereign wealth fund, the Public Investment Fund, PIF, estimated to be worth over $500 billion, which was established in 1971. This formidable fund has fueled numerous Saudi projects and companies, providing crucial financial support for initiatives of strategic importance to the nation's economy. Now, as the spotlight shines on the Crown Prince's opulent lifestyle, questions arise about the appropriateness of such extravagant expenditures. In a revealing interview conducted by 60 Minutes in 2018, he was confronted about his lavish choices while his people protested against their wages and economic situation. With unapologetic candor, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman responded with this:
"I'm a rich person. I'm not a poor person. I'm not Gandhi or Mandela. I'm a member of the ruling family that existed for hundreds of years before the founding of Saudi Arabia."
Saudi Arabia is currently engaged in discussions to become a member of the New Development Bank, the multilateral financial institution of the BRICS alliance, which consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Established in 2015, the NDB required each participating nation to contribute $10 billion in capital. If Saudi Arabia becomes part of the BRICS group, it could have significant economic ramifications for both the region and global community. Additionally, this move would enhance their ability to engage in trade with partners beyond the United States of America. Furthermore, there have been discussions and speculations regarding BRICS' attempts to challenge the dominance of the US dollar as the world's primary currency. However, thus far, their endeavors in this regard have proven unsuccessful. Nevertheless, with the inclusion of Saudi Arabia, the prospect of achieving this goal becomes more feasible due to our reliance on their oil for supporting our infrastructure. The journey into the enigmatic tapestry of the Saudi Arabia's ruling family, the House of Saud, reveals a complex web of power, wealth, and influence. The discovery of oil in 1938 catapulted Saudi Arabia onto the global stage, transforming it into an influential player in the world economy. The formation of Aramco and the close US-Saudi relationship further solidified the House of Saud's power and influence, granting them immense wealth and enabling them to shape nations and economies. However, this rise to power was not without its controversies. The 1973 oil embargo and its aftermath highlighted the significant impact that the House of Saud had on the global economy, leading to far-reaching changes in energy policies and exposing the influence of the OPEC cartel. Despite the negative consequences for the US continued its dependence on the Saudi oil and maintained a close relationship with the ruling family. Another notable aspect is that the 9/11 attacks were predominantly perpetrated by Saudi nationals. This raised questions about the extent of Saudi Arabia's involvement and its role in funding terrorism and possible links to the 9/11 attacks themselves. The House of Saud's absolute monarchy and control over all aspects of the country's governance further solidifies the power within Saudi Arabia. Political participation outside of the royal family is limited, with decisions often made in consultation with religious leaders, tribal sheikhs, and influential commercial families. In conclusion, the House of Saud's rise to power, fueled by oil wealth, has had a profound impact on Saudi Arabia and the world. The close relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States, the controversy surrounding the House of Saud's influence, and the connection to terrorism has raised questions and concerns. It is crucial to remain vigilant and informed about the complexities of Saudi Arabia's ruling family and their impact on the global stage, as their influence on it is much bigger than you think it is. And as always, friends, keep your eyes open.